It is official, ladies and gentlemen. Former Jackson State head coach Deion Sanders is making the jump from HBCU to the big leagues. He's going to be the next head coach of Colorado. Apparently, Deion is getting a big-time bag. Deion has been vocal about not having the proper resources at Jackson State, not only for himself, his football program, but he was pretty adamant about getting his assistant coaches paid more money for their time and efforts. Deion did try to inform his now former Jackson State football team about the news before it got out, even though there have been reports and rumors for the last few weeks. He told his players, in coaching, you either get elevated or you get terminated. I've chosen to accept the job elsewhere next year. I'm going to finish what we started. We are going to dominate. I'm going to be here until that end and that conclusion. And then upon that conclusion, I'm going to move on. I've always questioned things as a player. How can you be so dominant and have to play for 5 football teams? It's been 4 or more African-American head coaches that has been terminated at the FBS level. I haven't heard not one like a candidate like myself. And to me, that's a problem. Deion's been at Jackson State for 3 years, and he completely turned that program around. I mean, I've never seen what Deion just did for that HBCU. It was phenomenal. You know, Jackson State, I've never seen them pop the big boy-ish that they've been popping over the last couple years, and I ain't mad at them. Give credit where credit is due. Deion Sanders walked in as primetime and walked out as primetime. Now, there are 3 things that I got to be honest with you I'm a little uncomfortable with regarding Deion Sanders as he exits Jackson State for Colorado. Number one, I want to be clear with you guys. I'm very uncomfortable with the criticism that Deion Sanders is getting today for his decision to leave JSU. We're going to do a feature story on this later in the week. I don't think people understand how much change Deion in a short amount of time made to Jackson State University. They got bigger facilities, more money invested in the program, eyes on the program, sponsorships. When I went through these sponsorships that Jackson State has been able to land in this short period of time under Deion's leadership, the amount of recruits that were willing to give Deion's team a shot. They weren't there just because they liked Jackson State or the NIL money was outstanding. As a matter of fact, Deion's been pretty vocal about not having the resources because Jackson State doesn't have the alum to compete with some of these bigger boys in college football with NIL deals. Deion deserves a significant amount of credit for getting the number 2 recruit in the country last year to come to Jackson State University. Deion deserves credit for that. But I will say this. There are a couple things I don't like about Deion's side in his exit that I do believe fair criticism. Number one, I'm listening to Deion speak to his players at Jackson State as he nears his exit following their conference championship win. He's still going to coach the bowl game, by the way. I don't like the God undertone. That made me a little uncomfortable. I don't know where God sides in football. I don't know if God's into sports, but it definitely makes me uncomfortable. It's not just a Deion thing. Anytime I hear football coaches or any sport insert religion into, sports at any level, it makes me very uncomfortable, especially with impressionable young college student minds. All right. I don't know about that. He used a lot of God in his exit to JSU, and it made me a little uncomfortable. And I do want to be fair to Deion in this regard. When you get a guy that is so eloquently spoken like Deion, so great with his words and his analogies and comparisons and all that good stuff, especially with his sports, his athletic background that he has, one of the greatest we've ever seen come through football. Obviously, when he says stuff and then ends up leaving somewhere, it's going to be rubbed the wrong way because everybody's going to be like, you lied. I don't think Deion lied about anything. Again, if you go look back a couple months ago, he flatfoot said, I will consider alternatives to Jackson State University because of the lack of resources that we got. It's a real quote, y'all. The second thing, though, that I didn't like during Deion's tenure at Jackson State, and this is very minimum, but it is something that I didn't like. I am from Memphis. There's a very important football game that happens in my hometown every single year called the Southern Heritage Classic. I got really close family ties that support that sporting event every single year. Now, again, because Deion's been at Jackson State over the last few years, their chest has been poked out. One of the things and one of the calls Deion made was to get rid of that Southern Heritage Classic game, which is not only has been a pretty good money cow, cash cow for Tennessee State University, which is the other school involved in the game, but Jackson State has benefited from it. But the city of Memphis has benefited from it significantly. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but trust and believe, all different tailgating events, parking events. I got an uncle that always has a booth out there every year. You know, my family, my eternal family goes out there every year and supports the Southern Heritage Classic, even without TSU ties. It's just something you do when you are from Memphis. And Deion made the call to get that game up out of there. And it bothers me because he's gone now. And JSU ain't going to be able to pump their chest out for so many years, no matter who they hire next. Deion, it ain't going to be Deion. And when you make a long-term decision, knowing that you're not going to be there in the long term, that bothers me. That game meant a lot to a lot of people, and I would like for that game to be brought back before it's too late. And in the city of Memphis and TSU go on with alternatives, because JSU going to need that game with Deion gone. All right, let's be clear about that. They going to need that game back. So congratulations to Deion Sanders. I'm not hating on the brother at all. I hate seeing people tell other people what to do with their careers. You know, I don't speak down on anybody. I try my best to encourage. I will tell you this. If you get a chance in your life, if you go to college, I ask you to take at least one business course if you have a few credits extra, one semester, to at least give a business course a try. And the reason why I say that is so many times I see so many people, friends, family, people that I don't know on social media. So many times I see people make it personal over business. And I did not get a business degree. I did take one business course. And one of the first things I learned the hard way is oftentimes it's just business. Actually, every time it's just business, never personal. And I tell myself that over and over again. So when I see things like Deion leaving Jackson State to go to Colorado, the first thing I think of is just business. You know, I didn't go to JSU, so obviously my heart's not in it. I remember being a Memphis Tiger fan back in the day when Coach Calipari left Memphis. It hurt me. But again, I couldn't understand at the time, this was pre-college for me, that it's just business, not personal. JSU should be thankful that Deion gave them a few seasons instead of looking at it the opposite way. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt in the short term. You're going to be like, bro, prime time, you preach this good game. I want you here. I miss you. But you realize when we're talking about a guy like Deion Sanders, he's just a special spokesman, brand ambassador, elevator of men. And a guy like that just isn't going to be stationary in nothing he does in life. Period.